Hello. Hey. Good to be here with you tonight for our midweek Bible study. If you'd like to turn over to 1 Peter chapter number 5, that would be great. Hopefully you've had a good week so far, but sorry to inform you that the week must go on. You have a couple more days until the weekend. Hang in there. We're on verse number 8. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse number 8. So we're going to start tonight with a pretty well-known verse, I would say, among Christians. You've probably heard it a time or two. It says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, walks about a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour." So this verse, and of course the next verse, well, I can go ahead and read it. We'll read it again in a second. It says, "Resist him, steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same sufferings are experienced by your brotherhood in the world." Okay. So this verse 8 and 9 remind us that we can fail the tests and trials of life. That's a possibility, unfortunately. I mean, I don't need to start off with such a doom and gloom comment, but I don't know, maybe we should be reminded that we can fail. Maybe you're like, no, I know very well that how often I can fail. But when you have any kind of test, when anyone faces any kind of real test, there's always the chance of failure, right? There's always a chance you're going to fail. There are some records, and I bet we could find other examples of this, where military groups have deliberately, armies have, I guess the Corps of Engineers, something like that, they'll deliberately overload the temporary bridges that they build, or their experimental bridges. They'll purposely overload them so they can find the failure points. And so the point of the test of the bridge is so that the bridge in the future will never collapse in a real world scenario, right? So, and maybe you can think of another example of that, but testing naturally carries a risk of failure. And in the Christian life, we might think, when I think test, I think immediate going back to school, high school, taking the test. Definitely a risk of failure there for me. But the Christian life is really no different. And so when we're experiencing this trial or this trouble or whatever, and it's a test of our faith, a test of our fortitude or whatever, there's a risk that we might fail it. We might fail the test. And of course, we don't want to do that. We don't want to be the kind of people who are always failing the tests of life. It makes life really miserable. So we're told to be sober and be vigilant because of our adversary. So that word "be sober," it's already used once in chapter 1 and verse number 13. We're told to be sober or be sober-minded. And we think sober, some may think instantly not intoxicated, right? We don't want to be, you can't get drunk. That's true in another context. That's not what it's talking about. It's often used, it would include not being intoxicated, but it's often used to mean well-balanced and self-controlled. Well-balanced and self-control, having full self-control over your faculties, I guess, and everything. So in other words, we really could put it like this: being sober means to be very serious and very thoughtful about things. Would you all agree with that? Serious-minded, yeah, very serious and very thoughtful. And so, in these two words, just be sober, he's really implying, and I don't think this is a great big leap that we're taking here. He's saying what you do matters in this life. What you do, especially as Christians, matters. Like every choice that you make, there might be some trivial choices that we make in life, so don't try to poke holes in what I'm saying. But everything you do matters. It really does matter. And so we ought to be the kind of people who take our life's choices and what we choose to believe in, because we're going to act out our beliefs. We're going to act on our beliefs. So what we choose to believe in, we got to take it very seriously and very thoughtfully, right? It's one thing we ought to be raising our children up to be doing, like, look, what you believe in matters, and so you need to believe in the things that you believe in because you believe them, not just because mommy and daddy taught them to you, or you were told this one time at a church somewhere, and some guy was a really good speaker, he said this thing, and oh, okay, I'll believe that. That's not really taken as seriously. I don't think it is. And so, any comments about that, real quick? So when a person decides, moving on from that, when a person decides to be sober, naturally, they're going to be vigilant. They're going to be on watch. They're going to be alert, right? And this is a good state of mind to be in as we live our life as Christians because of our adversary called the devil in this verse. It's the word diabolos. You heard that before? Diabolos. It's usually said with that rough voice. This is what diabolos means. It means a slanderer, a treacherous informer, a traitor. So that's who our adversary is. When I think of slander, I think going back to Job, when God and Satan were having this conversation about Job, and Job was like, you take away his blessings, and he'll curse you, he'll throw you away. Slanderer. He's a slanderer, didn't he? So this kind of person, I know we're not talking about a person, we're talking about our adversary, the devil, Satan, but this kind of person sounds like somebody we can really trust, right? Okay. Just making sure you are. What do you think are some misconceptions about the devil? Some misconceptions, or just some things people say about the devil that either are definitely not biblical, or that you're kind of on the fence about? Well, people say this, maybe you don't even know, and that's okay. Go ahead.
Some people think that the devil has no power.
Okay, the devil is kind of powerless. Yeah, that's one. But he certainly does have power, right? He's called the prince of the power of the air. I think it's in Ephesians 2. Let me check. Ephesians 2:2. Well, that means something. Ruler of the world, that means something. Double check. Yeah, he's the prince of the power. He's called. Ruler of the world. The whole world lies under the sway of the wicked one. Oh yeah, he's got no power. What else? What's another misconception that people might have of the devil? We're not going to just throw people under the bus. Maybe they have this conception.
He looks ugly and demonic.
Yeah, he's really ugly and demonic, and probably got like a fork tail. What was that?
Horns.
He's got horns. He's red and got a pitchfork. Probably got a what kind of mustache is that? Where it's like pointed. You know what I'm talking about? Is it a goatee? That's really way more pointed than mine. Okay, but yeah, so that's something that mankind's just kind of created up.
Because it's supposed to be bad.
He's a bad guy.
And the bad look.
Yeah, so that just naturally goes along with it, right? Yeah. But really, he wouldn't, I mean, I guess it's like, people describe God, like, what do people think God looks like? What's the typical look of God, probably, in the minds of people? Old guy, got a big white beard, white hair, got maybe a robe on, just glows or something like that. It's funny how we like picture things, isn't it? Why is he old? I guess because he's been around for a while, maybe. What else? I'm waiting for y'all to hit on a couple.
Just saying it's called Van Dyke.
What's that? It's called a Van Dyke. All right, well, anything else? Any other misconceptions?
Blame things on the devil because they say that you can't resist him.
Okay, yeah, the devil made me do it, right?
They believe he's gonna rule hell.
Okay, yeah, there's one. Let me hit on so I remember a news thing. It was in the news. I don't know how long ago it was. Maybe y'all remember it, where a lady drove her car into somebody's house, or maybe it was her own house, and ended up killing two little children or something like that. And she said her thing was that the devil made me do it. And of course, she was obviously, I don't think she was making that up. I think she really believed it. Like the devil made her do it. But that's not, it doesn't matter how far gone someone is in their head and they say this and they actually believe it. That's not a biblical thing. The devil cannot make us do anything. We have complete and total free will when a person's in their right mind. I would say that. And what did you say, Dean? He's going to rule over hell, or maybe he even rules hell right now. Yeah, that's definitely not. He doesn't live in hell, and he doesn't rule over it. Like it's his domain, and he just gets to sit back in his demonic throne while people are suffering in the lake of fire, or whatever it is, however you picture it. Cartoons really have brought this out, especially the old, like, what are they called? The Bugs Bunny cartoons? What was that? Looney Tunes, where the devil is, a lot of times you see these cartoon characters, the devil, and he's down in the thing, and I remember one where he was like cooking on a grill or something. It was really hot, cooking steaks or something like that. But a lot of times the people have, and even movies maybe have done this, have portrayed him as ruling over hell. And I tell you what, I bet you a lot of religious folks probably think that.
So where does he reside?
Where does he reside? I don't quite know. I would say Job 1 gives us the best answer and really connects here with this, where he was asked basically, what you been up to? That's the paraphrase version. And he said, I've just been walking to and fro on the earth. And then right here, he walks about. He walks about like a roaring lion. The devil doesn't want to go to hell any more than you or I do, I would say. Would y'all agree with that? Let's see. Was that Matthew 25? Matthew 25, 41. Jesus is talking about judgment. He will also say to those on the left hand, Matthew 25, 41. Depart from me, you cursed, into the everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. It's not that the devil built it himself and he just loves it down there. It's just not like that at all. So he doesn't live in hell. He doesn't rule over it. That's going to be his eternal place of punishment. Can you think of anything else? There's one really big one that probably a lot of people believe. I think they do. How about it? He doesn't exist. He's not even real. He's like, well, the skeptic culture, they don't believe. Well, that's true, but I think more and more people who call themselves Christians are believing it. Oh, they certainly are giving up the idea of hell. Why won't you just go one step further and just give up the idea of the devil altogether? Well, Jesus talks about him. John 8:44 is one particular verse where Jesus talks, and it doesn't, I've never picked up that Jesus was just talking about a mythical figure. So if you believe in Jesus, you got to believe in the devil, right? What's John 8:44 say? You are of your father the devil, but the mythical devil. The desires of your father you want to do. He was a murderer, and he goes into it. He says, murder from the beginning, doesn't stand in the truth. There's no truth, and when he speaks a lie, and we're supposed to believe that he's just a made-up figure. I don't think so. Jesus was really, really wrong if the devil doesn't exist.
Who tempted him if it weren't,
Yeah. So this goes with another one that I think this might be a growing belief where the devil as a being doesn't exist. It's just the devil is being used to personify sin. So every time Jesus talks about the devil, or any writer talks about the devil, they're just personifying sin. They're just adding some human qualities onto sin itself. But that doesn't make any sense. I think if the 1 Peter 5 verse 8 refutes that, he's an actual being, and then Megan brought up Luke 4, where Jesus is being tempted in the wilderness by just a blob. I don't even know how you would describe that. I mean, who in the world was tempting Jesus in the wilderness? Who was Jesus speaking to?
In Job chapter 1.
What's that now?
I said even in Job chapter 1.
And then Job chapter 1, and some could say, well, that's Old Testament, and that's, it's like, that's a myth. That was just a story being told. No, but we're dealing with a real, as one writer put it, a real factually present, speaking and active being. He is not the evil. He is the evil one. So this is not like just something we make up to scare our kids into being right, to being good. If you take the Bible for what it is, if you take the New Testament for what it is, you have to have a belief in an evil being like this. It's called our adversary, it's called Satan, it's called the devil. It's just been like in our culture, it's just been so like, I don't know, like one maybe made fun of. It's been just so loosely talked about, and all these movies and things have been made like kind of around it, and stories have been told where it's almost, I think some Christians find themselves embarrassed to even say that they believe in Satan. I mean, what do you think? You think have we gotten there? I mean, I hope not either. I feel like we have gotten there with a lot of people, unfortunately.
they deny that there's a God, so why would they admit that?
Well, yeah. And I'm talking about Christians, people who call themselves Christians.
I feel like
Embarrassed to say that they believe in, maybe they embarrassed to say they believe in God, but also they're embarrassed to say they believe in the devil. Like they wouldn't really bring it up outside of church building or something. Go ahead.
I feel like and this is my opinion, it's easier to defend my belief in God or that Jesus was real, because there's so much more written about him,
Sure.
than it is the devil. And
Understand that.
I just feel like, if I was coming from it, trying to argue, oh, it's not really the devil, it's just actually sin personified, I would have a hard time. Like, I could show them the verses, but I feel like they could easily twist them.
So,
And so
yes.
that would keep me from wanting to.
Yeah.
engage.
Everything you say to somebody can be twisted. Doesn't mean what you say is not true and not backed up with logic and reason and scripture, Either Jesus was hallucinating in Matthew 4, or he was talking to the devil.
Maybe they'll say, well, he was starving. So
Well, then
he
they-
was hallucinating. Like, I'm
Yeah, they could say that, yeah. They could say that. Rick, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, you talked about what he looks like. In 2 Corinthians 11:14, it says he can disguise himself as an angel of light.
Yeah, that's interesting, yeah.
So he can probably take on any form he wants.
Yeah, that's an interesting passage. And I have a hard time believing that, we're gonna go down a rabbit hole here. I have a hard time believing like he would take human form, something like that. I don't think it's that way. I don't think that happens today. No more than angels taking on human form. I don't believe that happens, but I can't deny that Hebrews 1:14 verse. So I'm very aware that angels play some role in the lives of Christians today, faithful Christians. I just don't know how they do it. And so that's where I stop with it. I don't want to speculate about it. I mean, I could, but there's no point really. I think what 2 Corinthians 11 is referring to is really just how deceptive the devil is, and what we think could be right is actually wrong. And I'm actually going to talk a little bit about this in the devotional in just a little bit here, but 2 Corinthians 11, very interesting passage. Go ahead, Eddie.
You were talking about how media, TV and cartoons and all that kind of put it in your head that it's not as serious as it is.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of the problem too, is why it's so easy to kind of write it off, because even with sin in general, it kind of becomes the norm,
Yeah.
It's becomes socially acceptable, and so we see this cartoon, no, he's not so bad, so it's easy for somebody that's already on the fence about it to be like, he's just a little red guy that sits on my shoulder and tells me to do bad,
Take away the threat, and then it's not really a big deal to the person. Yeah.
Easy to brush off.
Yeah. There's another one I had down here that one misconception is that he's co-equal with God in Christ. And I would say you're not going to probably find somebody like this, but there was a belief, kind of borders on Gnosticism, where that there was a demiurge, the devil, the demiurge, and he was what caused he was kind of competing with the God of the Bible. But he's far less powerful. He's powerful, but he's far less powerful, and his power lies in deception. I would say, period, his power lies in deception, and that's where it is. Go ahead, Rick.
Well, this is actually a question. Since we're talking about the devil, in Job, when he is talking with God, is he talking with God or Christ? Because God can't be around evil. How can that be? It says the Lord. In my version, and it's in capital letter.
But then if Christ is God, if it's true that God can't be around evil, do you have is that in the Bible? Is that a verse that actually explicitly says that?
What? That he can't be
That
around
God can't be around evil.
That's what I've always said.
I'm just wondering, yeah, I know, right? It's like, well, duh. Yeah. Me too.
That he can't even hear a prayer on sinner.
Yeah. I would say,
That leads me to
oh boy,
believe.
yeah, that's leading me to thinking about all kinds of stuff. I'm branching out in my head like crazy right now. I don't know if I would go far as say that God can't be around evil. I mean, obviously he hates evil. He hates evil things. Let's say if that's the case, like is God not in the world? You know, I don't know. And the world's full of evil. But can God, if that's true, and then that means Christ had to be talking to God. But then Christ is God, then how could Christ be doing it?
When God gave Moses the Ten Commandments, wasn't he there with Moses?
Yeah, God? Yeah.
He was on the mountain.
He's talking out of the burning bush. Angel of the Lord was, yeah.
Now, Moses wasn't free of sin.
No.
So.
Right.
Yeah, he must be able to be around.
Yeah, no man, yeah, true. Even Abraham was sinful, and he's called the friend of God, right? He talked directly to Abraham. Yeah. So that scene in Job is about as magnificent as a person's own imagination can make it, because we're really not told a lot of details about it. Who knows how spiritual beings talk to each other? Now they communicate. They got to go into the same room, talk to each other, the same garden or whatever. It's pretty fascinating to think about, but it's just like too much for us to plug in to make it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I would say he must be able to. I don't know. He can't hear a sinner's prayer.
Is it literal?
Or maybe he doesn't want
to
to
hear a sinner's prayer, or is it that he won't respond?
I would say he won't respond.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah, he won't respond.
We need to get a spiritual phone.
A spiritual phone?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so some misconceptions. All right, so there we go. Misconceptions about the devil. All right. So there's a lot of confusion about the devil, I think, and of course, along with that, hell. But he's not to be ignored. He is not as powerful as God, but he is powerful. He's not to be ignored. And Peter says in this verse that he's always doing four things. Number one, he is walking, and that means that's the idea of him always going. And of course, that goes to Job 1 and verse 7. He is roaring, he says. And that's the idea of, I don't think he's actually, we're not supposed to be taking this verse as like you're actually doing that, right? Like the devil is actually roaring like a lion. But that's just the idea that he is intimidating and to cause fear, and he's something not to be taken lightly, this being. And then it says he's seeking. Now, you can use this word seeking positively and negatively. So, Matthew 6:33, seek ye first. Is that positive? The kingdom of God, is that positive or negative? Okay, so that's positive. Peter's not using it in a positive way. He's using it in a negative context. So that adds more meaning to the word. And so the meaning is actually, it means to plot against life. This is what he's doing. He's walking around like a roaring lion, plotting against life. And whose life do you think he's plotting against? He knows he can't kill God or Jesus, and so you're the only one that's left. And then he is devouring. So it really does a good job, Peter does, the Holy Spirit does, is painting this picture of what Satan does, devouring. You can picture him eating your soul if that's what you want to. I'm sure horror directors would be thrilled with that. But he wants sin to cause us to lose our soul, be completely and totally consumed by sinful things. So he seems pretty busy, our adversary. Seems pretty busy. He is not sitting on his hands. He is very active. And so that kind of turns the question to us, how busy are we in preparing ourselves to fight against this adversary? How busy are we strengthening ourselves to be prepared for temptations and sin and deception and things like this? It's a good question to ask ourselves, isn't it? Satan's got 3 goals. Let me tell you 3 goals that Satan has. He's got, he wants to keep you out of the church. He wants to keep people away from being in Jesus Christ. So nothing makes Satan happier than watching people hear the gospel and then ignore the gospel and fight so hard against whatever it is that the person knows that God wants them to do. He loves it. Denominationalism within Christianity, atheism, these are Satan's biggest achievements because he's just separated people who really truly believe in Jesus Christ. He's just separated them and got them away from each other, and now we fight against each other and we argue about things. It's his biggest achievement. Keeping people out of the church. He wants to get you out of the church. That's the second thing. So you've done well by becoming Christians, but now he wants to get you out of there. You're in the church, he wants to get you out. He wants you back in the world. He cannot wait for you to one day quit your faith. If I say, no, I'm not really going to, I'm kind of done with this. He cannot wait for you to quit your faith. Go ahead.
You talked about everything else. You know how he sleeps?
How the devil sleeps?
Yeah. First he lies on one side, then he lies on the other.
That's right.
You said something about conception, but that's what, you know.
He's a pretty good liar.
He's conceived.
And then he wants to make you worthless. If he can't keep you out of Christ, out of the church, and then if he can't get you out of the church, then he wants to make you worthless to the church. He wants you to feel sorry. Even as a Christian, he wants you to feel sorry for yourself when hard times come. He wants to never say anything Bible related to anything at all. Don't ever bring religion up to anybody whatsoever. And just never get involved in the things that Christians do. Just don't get involved. Just don't answer the phone. Stay at home. Let somebody else do it. That kind of thing. He wants to make you worthless to the church. So hopefully, none of those things describe you. And if they do, what are you going to do about it? This is your adversary who is very active, very real person, unless you don't believe him. And these are the kind of things he has you on his mind. So what are you going to do about it? Hopefully you be sober and vigilant. Hopefully you take it seriously. Now, verse 9, we're told to resist him by doing 2 things. Steadfast in the faith and having knowledge. Now, you probably didn't pick up the knowledge thing. I'm going to explain it. You see it, though? Resist him, steadfast in the faith, and then knowing. Okay, that's 2 things. So, steadfast, 1 Corinthians 15:58, very good verse to talk about being faithful. Just be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. That's the idea of being faithful. Steadfast has to do with, and I've always liked I've said this before, but I've always liked the difference between immovable and steadfast. We got to be both of those. But immovable has to do with not letting someone else or something in life or somebody else move you away from the faith. Don't let anybody come along and drag you away from Christ. Okay, that's you be immovable. But then being steadfast is very similar, right? The idea is like standing in one place. But steadfastness has to do with not moving yourself away. So don't let somebody come and pull you out of the church with whatever temptation it is. But also be grounded enough and be steadfast, and you don't take yourself out of the church. And you say, no, I'm done with this, and you quit. So there's a difference there. All of these things that we've been learning in this book involves being steadfast or firm, the idea of firm in the faith. So I'll read them out real quick. Chapter 1 and verse 7, being found faithful at the revelation of Jesus Christ. Being found faithful. That's the idea of being steadfast. Chapter 1, verse 15, being holy in all your conduct. Chapter 2 and verse 1, laying aside all malice and hypocrisy, etc., etc. Chapter 2 and verse 13, following, doing good by submitting to those who are in authority. So steadfast in the faith. Chapter 3 and verse 8, having compassion and loving like brothers and sisters should. Chapter 3 and verse 9, not returning evil for evil. Chapter 3 and verse 15, being ready to give an offense, give an answer. Chapter 4 and verse 3, no longer living for ourselves. Chapter 4 verse 16, not being ashamed to suffer as a Christian. Chapter 4 and verse 19, committing or entrusting our souls to our faithful creators. All of those things are involved in resisting our adversary and being steadfast in the faith, right? It's a pretty good list there. And then comes the knowledge. This helps us resist evil, okay? This kind of knowledge. And specifically, and I would say knowledge in general, yes, especially knowledge about the scriptures. This is not about, he's saying that it's knowledge about knowing the fact that you're not alone in the things you go through. And he brings up, again, suffering of Christians. So, and whether it's by miraculous ability or not, Peter knew about the sufferings of Christians worldwide, over the church worldwide at the time. And I think there's a level of comfort that comes along with knowing that, the same things that you're going through, you suffer with, or whatever trial it is, these are shared by other Christians. And you don't have to know their name and address and phone number to believe that. Other people just like you are fighting the same battles that you are. I don't think that's a humongous leap of faith in your mind to believe that. Not a leap of faith at all. And of course, we're never truly alone because God is with us, right? And we know that, and we probably take comfort from that. But, I can't go to God. I'll probably go over just for a minute, but just give me your attention. I can't go to God and wrap my arms around God. I can't hug God, and God can't hug me physically. He can't hug me. Maybe one day that happens, that would be nice in heaven. And I can't go to God's house and sit on his porch and have a back and forth conversation and God, give me some advice. And I just sit there and just listen to it and get comfort from it. And I can't see God maybe shedding tears along with me while I am shedding tears through whatever my trial is. But that's why we have the church. It's supposed to be why we have the church. That's why we have each other. Let me read this real quick. 2 Corinthians 1, 3, and 4. Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and God of all comfort. Oh, we love it. Who comforts us in all of our tribulation. Yes, that's good. That we may be able to comfort those who are in any trouble with the comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by God. I take God's comfort and I pass it on, basically. I'm supposed to be doing as a Christian. So that's why we have each other. So don't ever downplay or ignore the power of having Christian friends and the bonds that you can create with Christians. And a lot of times we might not have those bonds due to, our own withdrawing or whatever it is. But, it sure is attractive to people who are searching for some kind of sanity and some kind of help and hope in the world, when you have a group of people who actually really care about each other. And I know the church isn't perfect at that. And I was just talking to somebody about this, maybe just a couple weeks ago, about why we aren't better at comforting each other, And I think I have a pretty good idea about it. Maybe we can talk about it next week. But there is some powerful comfort that comes along with knowing that other Christians suffer along with us. Okay. We'll pick up, we can keep talking about that if you want next week. If not, we'll pick up with 10 and 11, and then probably, I don't have a lot to say about 10 and 11. We'll probably get into the questions maybe in the chat, in the book, do the questions. So if you haven't done any questions, go ahead and get on them and be ready for next week. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.